Creek walking again after months of staying home because of this coronavirus crap. But we're out here again, and I just walked up on this right here. Look at that. All right, let's pick it up. Oh, yeah.
Perfect. Maybe a little nick off the tip, is it?
Well, that's typical. That's the first thing it goes when it's washed down out of a creek is the needle point on the tip. Beautiful. We've only been in here about an hour, so we're going on. All right. Brand new creek today. And my wife just walked on that. Walked up right up on it. There's a drill. The tip broken right off. Look how beveled it is. Wow.
Dang on.
Nice. All right, second one of the day. Go ahead and pick it up, Bubba. See what you got. Oh, it's perfect too. It's perfect.
Hell yeah.
Oh, looks like a little woodland point.
It might be a little nick on it.
Go wash it off in the water.
I will.
Nice one. Yeah, excellent find.
Let's put it on the water. Here, bud. Alright, check it tip, this wing here.
Let's check it.
It looks working. That's why I like them burns, boy. You see them. If there's any showing on it, you see them.
We're in the lonely Green River bottoms today. A place I know about. Been coming here for years, arrowhead hunting. There's an Indian burial mound, or what's left of one, right over there. And down here we have the Green River. It's a pretty remote area. A lot of Bigfoot activity around here. Looks like a good place up in there to read you guys a story. Maybe a couple of emails. Hi everyone. Thanks for coming out. Spend a little bit of your day with us today. To everybody that's been watching my videos and subscribing, thank you very much. To all the new subscribers, thank you and welcome. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about DOGMAN and a few other things, and we'll start out with reading an email that was sent to me. I want to thank everyone that's been sending me emails. We really appreciate them. Well, we're only looking for true encounters, so if you have a true inhumanoid encounter and you want to share it with someone, please feel free to email us at inhumanoidencounters@gmail.com, or you can use my old email address, which is artslave_66@hotmail.com. Okay, this one's from Angelique. Thanks, Angelique, for sending this in. She's a woman from Idaho. Let's see what she has to say here. I used to live on 77 acres in the middle of nowhere at the edge of Hoodoo Lake in North Idaho, about 8 miles from where I live now. Not only did my son and I have DOGMAN sightings, but all of my neighbors up and down that dirt road talked about the terrifying sounds in the night, the strange tracks of mutilated deer. I truly lived in paradise, but none would come visit me because the noises were so frequent. People would just get in their cars and leave. I stayed there for 5 years and then moved into a more populated area 8 miles down the road. We have horses, a pig, dogs, cats, and all of our surrounding neighbors have livestock and animals. I thought I had left my fears behind at the old property, but my son and daughter-in-law had a sighting less than 200 yards from our house on Monday morning. They described it in detail as what we had seen at the old property. I begrudgingly told my husband that we needed to keep an eye on our horses. Yeah, it's good advice. I figured he'd tell me I was nuts, but as it turns out, he's seen a lot in the early mornings before daylight and hadn't told me. According to him, it comes in the yard at night but doesn't bother anything. It doesn't hurt the horses or take any chickens next door. He told me he wasn't telling anyone because he doesn't want any of the neighbors to shoot it. Barton, it's the size of one of our horses, and our girls are 16 hands high. I'm scared to death to go out in the dark now. How do I get through this? I knew they were at my old property, but I didn't have livestock. They don't appear to be bothered by it, although I did see some scratches on one of the mare's side that resembled claw marks. My husband says she was just scratching on a tree branch, and that could be it. It's also weird that our pet dog passed away from old age last year. My husband wrapped him in his favorite blanket and buried him under a tree. Periodically, I have to go out and rebury him because he keeps getting dug up. He's never unwrapped or dragged out of the ground or moved. Just the soil on top of him is removed until you can see his blanket. It's disturbing, to say the least. My husband thought it was the horses that were digging him up, but I'm beginning to wonder. It's definitely not the horses that are digging up your dog. That's not something that horses really do that I know of. My husband and I are going through a divorce, so I've since moved away, but he's still there. Right before we split up, we started getting the outside of the house slapped very hard. We lived in a very large log cabin, and it was virtually a stronghold. The side of the house would get hit hard enough, it would knock dust out of the rafters. He wouldn't tell me what he was doing, hence one of the reasons we're divorcing. But when the house would get slapped, he'd go out to the garage and he'd pull out frozen roasts from our chest freezer and toss them at them. He told me that whenever the fog rolls in, he expects them, and that they use his ranch as a stop-off point to get food and water from the troves. I asked him what they would do when he tossed them meat, and he said they'd reach down, pick it up, tuck it under their arm, and walk away. Well, that's crazy. That's a crazy email. But I know Angelique, and I know she's telling the truth. And how would she get through all this? Well, it's pretty easy. You can do what we did back in 1975 and just move away. But if you don't want to move away, then you need to have faith in the good Lord that He'll protect you from these evil creatures, and that's what they are. I know a lot of people might not think the same way as I do, but in my opinion, they're all evil and they're up to no good. They're certainly not helping anyone. So that's my advice, is to stand in faith or leave. It's really the only thing that one can do. Okay, let's see what we got here. This is from a man named Andy. Hi Andy, thanks for sending this in, buddy. I appreciate it. Mr. Nunnelly, I just finished watching your little troll video and thought I'd send you my sightings. In the interest of full disclosure, I am Andy Warhol's wig, or just wig for short. He says if I ask another YouTuber, he would probably warn me away from having anything to do with you. Well, Andy, I don't ask anybody's permission for anything. Anyone's free to send in messages to me or something that an account that they need to get off their chest. This is mine and my wife's channel, and we certainly don't ask permission. So here we go. I'm 63 years old, and this happened roughly 50 years ago, give or take. I was with my father and little brother. We had gone to meet someone that Dad wanted to talk to about who knows what. We were just off the road in a clearing about half the size of a football field that had woods on the other 3 sides. In the center there was a small pile of cut trees. The guy Dad was talking to had just finished telling me that there were fairies in the woods, and you had to be careful if you saw one. All this time I'm trying to figure out if he was just jerking my chain or on the level. My brother was off wandering around on the other side of the clearing. I started walking off. When I looked up, there was this little person about 15 feet away from me, and we both stopped on the spot. I bet. There I was looking at something I'd never seen before. A little person, quote unquote, about 14 to 16 inches tall, wearing a loincloth. Everything about him was the same color of brown, like tree bark. He was thin and completely hairless except for the top of his head. His hands and feet seemed a bit longer than on people. His eyes turned up slightly on the outside corner. His ears were completely covered by hair that stood out in every direction at once, like a dandelion puff ball, or one of those old damn troll dolls. I don't remember being able to see an eye color, but there would have been no eye shine as it was in the middle of the afternoon. We stared at each other for what was probably only 30 seconds or so, then he took off, running, and made this impossible jump, perfectly horizontal for 3 to 4 feet, into one of the trees in the pile. The tree was hollow all the way through, with a hole large enough to accommodate his size, but not move around. I watched for a minute or so to see if he would come out the other end, but no. Finally, I go and look inside the tree where he had jumped in and saw nothing. There was no chance he could have left the tree without me seeing him. It's my theory that there are natural formations that function as portals for them to travel through. Theory 2 is that for some reason they are unable to disappear if someone is making direct eye contact with them unless that contact is broken. The entire encounter was completely non-aggressive. He had no weapons and never made any threatening gesture. I never noticed if he had nipples or a navel, so make of that what you will. So fall's in full swing here, but we haven't had a first frost yet, so all the bugs they're still with us, so I apologize for that. The second sighting happened inside the house I was living in. I had walked into the kitchen and could see into the laundry room, where I saw a small figure around 6 inches tall dart from one side of the room to between the washer and dryer. I only saw it for a moment, but except for the size difference, the appearance as I remember it was the same as in the first sighting. Also, it should be noted that the available space wasn't wide enough for it to fit between. I don't know if this indicates some kind of dimensional instability or portal or what. It just seems that there are some kind of rules these beings have to follow in order to disappear. I do remember the area briefly having this unstable look, like heat coming off the pavement on a hot summer day. And I've heard that description before. 20 years ago when I talked to the fellow out here in Spotsville, really close to where we're at right now, and he saw these things stepping out of portals, and he described them as areas where it looked just like heat rising up off a hot summer road. So, to continue. On another occasion, I saw what was it? We were driving along a country road and were passing a small cornfield with patches of woods on either side. It was early in the growing season and the crop was still low enough to see the ground around the plants. I spotted a burned out trunk of tree right in the middle of the field. Middle of the day, and this thing was black to the point of the absence of light. Now things just don't look that black under a full afternoon sun. I glanced at the driver's seat to ask my dad why somebody would leave a tree in the middle of a field like that. When I looked back out the window, this tree was modocking halfway to the tree line and looking more like a bear, except I'm pretty sure that bears have a head and I couldn't see one on this blacker than black shape. It took no more than 5 seconds for this thing to go from tree to gone. What do? I think. I saw, don't know. It could have been a Bigfoot playing stump squatch to watch the traffic. I do know that we don't have bears in central Indiana, Illinois area. Sorry about the zero thrill level, but it is what it is. Hope there's some kind of value in this for you. Thanks, Andy. There sure is some kind of value in that for everyone, I'm sure. I have a lot more info on the little people that I'll be sharing in one of my videos sometime really soon. Like I said in the first one, of all the unexplained mysteries that I've been looking into since 1985, the little people is the only phenomenon that I've actually found concrete evidence to support the existence of these things. So I'm 100% sure that these things exist here. What they are or what they're doing, I don't know. I don't know if anyone could tell you that or not. But they're here. So I'm going to read you now a little bit. An encounter about Bigfoot, a couple encounters that were sent to me years ago. We'll just get in a bunch of different subjects here. I had planned to release this video Halloween night, but it was terribly, it was just raining and just terrible weather for 2 nights in a row. We didn't really have a chance to get out, so I'm trying to make up for it right now. All right, this comes from a fellow named Clyde. This happened in Barton County, Kentucky in 2006. Me and a few of my male companions were gathered around a campfire. One of my friends had passed out due to drinking, and we had carried him inside of the tent. Several hours later, we heard groaning sounds coming from the direction of the tent. We thought nothing of it. Little did we know something had been watching us. The groaning went on for hours until we finally checked our drunk friend. He was silent and the groaning continued. I peered behind the tent in the direction I thought the sounds were coming from, and there it was about 15 feet from us, appeared an ape-like creature sleeping. It was rolling around as if it were trying to find a spot to get comfortable. I was quiet for several minutes, and then I called to one of my friends to check this out. He came to see what the fuss was about, and when he saw the ape-like creature, he screamed in fear. The creature raised its head, looking startled. It rose from the ground and appeared to be about 7 to 8 feet tall. It took off in a rush. The creature was somewhere between 7 and 8 feet tall, brownish hair that appeared to be about 2 to 3 inches thick around its body. I couldn't see very much in detail. These are the only facts that I can give from what I'd seen. It was a mildly wooded area behind four-wheeler trails on a hill behind my house. All right, thanks, Clyde. Yeah, these Bigfoot creatures are all over Kentucky. There's no doubt about it. It doesn't surprise me or it wouldn't surprise me if every single county in Kentucky, 120 counties, all of them, eventually have verified Bigfoot sightings coming out of there. So, see what else we got here. All right, excuse us, folks. We had to take a quick break. I'm going to try to read one more email. The bugs are just tearing us up, and we'll be back again soon. Okay, for the last email, this is more DOGMAN in Kentucky. Kentucky, as you might know, is a hot spot for these things, just like Michigan and Ohio and Texas, several other states. I wrote about these things in my books. If you guys want to check out any of my books, they're all available on Amazon.com. Check it out. We also have a Facebook group called Inhumanoid Encounters with Barton Nunnelly, so check that out if you like. If you're into Facebook, it's a good way to share information. And here we go. This is from Henderson County, Kentucky, my hometown where we're at right now. The south end. So Barton, you asked for it, and here it is. From Amy Long. Yes, Amy, I did ask for it, and thank you for sending. Barton, as you know, I'm a believer in Bigfoot, and I've had several encounters, at least 4 or 5, if not more, with my old pal Bigfoot. Yes, Amy and I have talked a lot. We're good friends, and as well as with her husband John. They're great people. But I was never much believing in the DOGMAN. Well, that's most people don't, but they're mistaken, just like you were, as we're going to find out. But I was never much believing in the DOGMAN. That wasn't until my first encounter with not one but 2 dogmen on 2 separate occasions. I had taken Jonathan, my grandson, to school one morning, and when I came back, I decided to just take a drive through Martin Road. I drove to Smith Mills and turned on Martin Road. So yeah, I'm really very familiar with Martin Road. That's where the Bird Hill is at. I've written a lot about that. They've also seen Bigfoot in that area, so very active area. Trolls, I call them trolls, yeah, or the people who were looking for them called them trolls, not Bigfoot. So I drove down the road, and off to my right in the field back towards the woods line, I saw what appeared to be 2 dogs coming out of the woods, one black and the other a reddish color. As they began going across the field, something seemed off. Their front legs were slightly longer than their back legs, kind of like a hyena. Their faces were like a wolf or dog face. The hair wasn't extremely long, but more like an Irish setter's hair, long and flowing. I thought it was just 2 big dogs till they stood up on their hind legs and began walking across the field. I thought I was seeing things. Of course you did. I thought I was seeing things. I looked through my binoculars, and it definitely was not dogs. I watched as they went back into the woods and disappeared. The second encounter I had was also on Martin Road, but more up in the hills. I had taken a ride, as I sometimes did after taking Jonathan to school. When I came through the hills, I saw 2 dog-like animals crossing the road in front of me. It was the same pair, one black, one reddish in color. As they crossed the road, the black one stopped in the road and turned to look at me as the reddish one continued to cross the road. These bugs are just terrible. Both had longer front legs, was walking upright, and had wolf-like faces, long ears, and long canines in the front of the mouth. I know some will think that I'm some kind of a nut or on drugs, but I know what I saw. The second encounter, they were no more than 30 to 40 yards from me. They were majestic and beautiful, but yet a little scary. All right, beautiful, I don't know about. Scary, yes, definitely. In all honesty, I don't remember seeing any tails on the creatures, but that could have been because I was more fascinated with the face and longer front legs and the muscular build of the upper part of them. Their faces were fascinating. The second encounter, the black one looked directly at me. I was kind of scared but intrigued at the same time. People can think I'm crazy, or most say, "What was you smoking?" Well, I got news for them. I don't drink and I don't do drugs. I gave up smoking almost 10 years ago. I know what I saw. This dog man looked straight at me. I could see his eyes, and I guess he could see mine. There was no aggressive move from it, and I made me. Let's try that again. There was no aggressive move from it, and I made me. She was just as curious about me as I was them. I'm going to guess they were a pair. So, thanks Amy for sharing that with us. And this is not too long ago, right there in eastern Henderson County. And I just fielded one report a couple months ago involving a dog man seen next to the city dump, right there behind John James Audubon State Park, right next to the Ohio River. So, got a lot of dog man activity here, and as well as a lot of other things. So, thanks to everybody for sending me emails in and messages that you'd like for me to share. If you want me to do that, be sure and send them in to me, and hopefully I will get to share them on one of these videos. And I hope everyone stays safe if you're out in the woods. Just be cautious and don't let your kids run around unsupervised, okay? So we don't want to let these things, or the fear of these inhumanoids, keep us from enjoying our time in the woods. The woods, God's creation, was made for everyone to enjoy. And if you let these things scare you out of it, then I think you're doing yourself a great disservice. So just keep your wits about you when you're in the woods, and be careful, and have faith in God, and everything will be fine. So you guys have a great day. Thanks for stopping by. We really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you guys again soon. Okay, Amy and John, thank you for letting us come out here and giving us this interview. And we've talked before about y'all's Bigfoot sightings, but now we want to talk about your Dogman sightings. Can you tell us when that happened and about where?
Well, it's about 4 years ago. It's over on Martin and Martin Road. I got my grandson on the bus, and I just decided just to take a drive. So I drove down to Martin and Martin Road. The first time that I saw it, I turned on the Martin and Martin Road side in Smith Mills and went a little ways, and I saw something going across a cornfield. Of course, there was no corn in it at the time. It was already harvest time. And I thought, what is that? And I got the binoculars up, and as I looked, I could see that there was two of them. There was one that was black, and there was one that was a more reddish colored, kind of orangey tint to it. And they were kind of walked out of the woods and walked across. I got the binoculars up, and I thought, man, some of these dogs are loose. But then they stood up on two legs. Right. And they made it across the field. And just before they went back into the woods, they got back down on all fours. And I noticed that they were strange because the front legs were longer than the back. Yeah. And it kind of reminded me of a hyena. And I thought, man, what did I just see? So I don't know, I maybe waited a day, 2 days, and I went back for another ride through the bottoms, which I did a lot of times when I got Jonathan on the bus. And I drove down Martin Road, and I went up there, and I was just riding along, not seeing really anything, and all of a sudden, here those two beautiful, majestic, bipedal creatures, or whatever you want to call them, Inhumanoids or whatever they are, come across the road. And I thought, what is this? And I kind of just stopped the car because I didn't want to hit nothing. I try not to hit anything. And I just stopped, and they were about 30 yards in front of me, 25 to 30. And I looked, and he kind of motioned for the I guess it was the female, the reddish one, to go on across the road. And she went on up and into the hill, and he stood there for at least 30 seconds and looked at me. He was really dark in color. He was, I won't say he had a manly build, but he was built muscular with his long front legs and his shorter back legs. And he got up and stood up, and he had a face of like a wolf. It reminded me of a wolf. And I thought, ooh, do I try to go on past him, or do I just sit here, or do I stick it in reverse and get the crap out of here, or what do I do? And so I just sit there, and he just looked at me, never, no signs of aggression. He just moved his head a little bit and just turned and looked at his mate and walked on up the hill with her, and they were gone.
Walked on two legs.
He walked on two legs right up straight up the hill.
How long in between sightings was this?
There was probably, I'm going to say, about 2 or 3 days in between the two sightings.
Okay, so you can't remember seeing any tail or anything like that on
I
these
don't
things?
remember seeing a tail. I was paying attention to the face. I
Yeah.
was paying attention to, like, oh gosh, that thing is absolutely beautiful. Just the features of his face being like a wolf, because I love wolves.
Yeah. You
And
didn't get scared at all when you seen these
no,
things?
I didn't get scared. I didn't get scared when I saw Bigfoot.
Right.
And he's hollered several times out here behind the house. And,
So are you still having Bigfoot activity out
yeah,
here?
he still comes around. You can still smell him, and you can hear him. And a lot of times he's back off across the highway over there, and you can hear him holler out. I don't holler at him anymore, because last time I did it, it brought him over here. So
Yeah. Yeah, so I've known John and Amy for about 10 years now, right? Maybe a little
about that.
maybe a little longer. And they've always had Bigfoot activity out here, but it's the first time hearing that of any dogman activity out here in this area. So it's interesting that, once again we have dogman and Bigfoot operating in the same general area at the same time.
Hmm.
What do you think about that, Amy?
I think it's kind of cool. I don't think they're out to hurt anybody or bother anybody. I think they just want to live and just be, do their thing. And I don't think that anybody should go out and hunt them down and try to harm them, or try to prove that they're, or disprove that they're a figment of imagination, because I know what I saw.
Right.
Because I'm one of these, if I make a mistake and I tell you something and I find out it's wrong, I'll go come back to you and say, hey, look, I just totally lied on that. I was wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
So you didn't notice any shoulders on these things, like a human shoulder,
I
or
didn't, I
more like
mean,
a dog's shoulder?
it was more like like a canine.
Yeah.
You've seen some of these canines that walk upright on their back feet because they've got like front legs missing or
Right.
something. They just kind of walked up, and it just kind of had the outlook of a wolf. But as far as being scary, being intimidating, it wasn't.
Hmm.
And the female, I guess it was the female, just kind of walked up, and she turned and looked, you know, to see where he was at and make sure that he was following behind her. And I mean, I didn't hear no sounds. Of course, the windows were up. I didn't hear no sounds,
Right.
no howls, no nothing. He just walked up behind her, and they just sauntered off on the, not run, not, galloped or anything. They just walked right on up.
Right. Like they weren't in any
Mm-mm.
hurry at all.
Nope, like they weren't intimidated by me or scared of me or anything. They were fabulous.
It's
It was
unusual.
awesome.
And both of your sightings happened in broad daylight, right?
Yes, it was probably 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning.
So there's no mistaking you could have
Absolutely
seen.
not. Absolutely not. Not a
Right.
not a inkling in my mind. It was like, wasn't that I was sleepy or anything. It's nor getting up at that time of the morning, getting that kid off to school, and I was fine. Done had my morning coffee and riding with my coffee and riding through the hills because go see if I could see any deer. Well, I
Right.
didn't see any deer, but I sure saw something that was really
Yeah,
majestic.
you saw something else.
Yeah.
Something you weren't expecting to see.
Totally not expecting. And there's been times that me and John have been just riding down through the bottoms looking for deer, and I'll see something out of the corner of my eye, and I'll tell him stop. And when I look, you can see a dark figure off in the woods, and I know what it is. It's down in the bottoms on the game reserve, and we know what it is. We know it's
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
Mr. Bigfoot.
were you very familiar with the Dogman subject before you saw these things, or?
Not really, not really familiar with it. I had heard of it, and I'd heard of the LBL incident, but I'd never really ever read up on it, and I never really even worried about it. And because I've heard hoots and howls and whoops and out
Yeah.
here, and never even really thought anything about it. I thought, oh, they're just back.
Right. Well, they're smart, whatever they are, because we had our trail cams out here for months, didn't we?
Hmm
And never got anything
I
at
think
all.
the only Bigfoot that you caught on the trail cam was my brother-in-law.
Right. Mowing the yard.
Yeah, I think
Well,
that
Amy,
was
John,
it.
thanks for letting us come out and talking to you. And
You're
so,
very welcome.
do keep me informed if anything else happens out here, okay?
I will try. I'm
Come
gonna
right out
try
and
my
check it out.
best to keep my camera with me. Now, a lot of times
Definitely.
I'll get excited and it's like, "Did you see that?" And you're like, "What?" And I've seen things like I said back off in the fields that you really can't get a look at.
Well, definitely keep your camera with you, Amy and John, and even when you have your camera with you, it's highly unlikely that you can get a shot in time before
Yeah.
these things take off. But definitely have one ready. in just in
Generally, they're
case.
so fast. It
Right.
happens so quick. They're gone before you could ever get ready to take a picture.
Right, I tried that. I saw some kind of. It looked like sort of a hyena, and last summer when I was creek walking with Letitia and a buddy of mine, and it walked up on the rock berm, and we stood there and looked at it. It was like, what in the heck are we seeing? It didn't have any hair on it. It had real dark skin, And I finally got the notion to take a picture of it, So I got my camera out, and I pushed the button and swiped the screen and hit the camera deal and held it up, and it just took right off. So. Yeah, so even when you're trying to go fast, it takes a few seconds to get that shot off. But
Yeah.
if I was thinking a little bit more quickly, I would have got a picture of it. It looked like one of those Mexican dogs. You ever heard of that? The hairless Mexican dogs?
Yeah.
Never seen one of those around here, but it sure did. Saw one in the creek, so.
Well, like I said, it wasn't frightening. A lot of people might have thought it was, and it did have like a canine that
Yeah,
stuck
sharp
out.
teeth.
That but I was like, what the hey?
What about its hands, Amy? Did you get a good look at its hands? Were they like hands or paws?
They were more like a hand, kind of more like it was. I would say that it probably had a paw pad, but it was more like a longer toenails, longer nails on it.
Yeah.
Longer part of where the toenails are at. But as far as whether it had a tail or what color the eyes was, I was just kind of like looking at this thing going, is this going to eat me?
Right.
You
What
know?
about the ears, Amy? Did you notice how
Oh,
big
long,
they were?
pointy,
Long, pointy.
ears with the tufts sticking out
Yeah.
on them. And when they stood up, when he stood and looked at me, he kind of stood at an angle, so whether he had like the broad shoulders or not, really couldn't tell because he's kind of like at an angle, and he just stood there, and I was more worried about, what's he thinking? Is he gonna eat me? Is he gonna, come over and attack the car? What's he gonna do? And I just sat there and waited, and just let him go on by. And I guess when he saw that I was no threat, that he shouldn't be a threat to me,
Right.
and he just walked on off.
Thank goodness, because you got these things down in the LBL killing people.
Yeah.
So maybe the ones I haven't heard of any attacks around here, but down to the south of us, I've heard several. Also in Tennessee. So hopefully they won't start acting like that here.
I hope not.
Hope not.
All right, thanks guys. We
Well, you're
really
welcome.
appreciate you talking to us, and like I say, keep us informed, Amy, if anything happens out here.
I certainly
we'll try
will.
to get out here as quick as we can.
We go riding all the time. We go, just riding. And if I can get him out of bed early enough one
Yeah.
morning, we might take a ride down and see if we could see it.
Right. Well, we're gonna investigate.